The day of doom is coming.
Your blood will turn white. Your face will turn green. Your eyeballs will pop with pressure. Because our doomsday shows the living end. Forge your strength. Take a shot. You're gonna need an awful lot when you see our shocker pictures. So terrifying that it is easier to die than to live. Come if you must, but make your wills. Say your goodbyes, for soon you may be up in the skies.
Doomsday is coming.
Now, if you're not afraid of something a little out of the ordinary,
vampires, werewolves, ghouls, ghosts, mummies that come back to life after 3,000 years. The magic moments of terror.
Happy Death Day to you! Happy Death Day to you! Happy Death Day to all the fleshies that died in October and were really, really scary and terrifying! Happy Death Day to you! Hi, Sally the Zombie Cheerleader here, and see this? I went all the way to Canada to get this specially made October Death Day cake for the fleshies that died in the month of October that contributed the most to the monster community over the years. And I know it's shaped like a Twinkie, but it's not a Twinkie! It's a Death Day cake. See, it has candles in it, and yeah. Anyway, Sally the Zombie Cheerleader here, and yes, once again, it's time for another October special. And that's right, folks. I have dedicated a whole 30-minute special to fleshies that died tragically in the month of October, but they managed to contribute greatly to the monster community. Death Day, you say? Well, there were a few fleshies that tragically passed away in the month of October that deserve a shout out, or 2 or 6 or 5 or 8 or Q, because they gave their hearts, minds, and possibly their souls to the monster community. Fleshies so terrifying that they deserve to be honorary monsters. Fleshies so gruesome that I, Sally the Zombie Cheerleader, have decided to dedicate an entire special to them. Well, 30 minutes. Come on, it's the age of ADD. My fan base would start to drool if I did more than 30 minutes. I'm being honest. October. It is my favorite month out of all the months that we have, and we have a whole bunch of them, and I'm not sure how many we have, but October is my favorite one. Mainly because I can walk around the entire month like this, and I can chase down a few snacks, and no one really notices the screaming too much. They just think that we're role-playing or we're costumes, or well, I don't know what you call it. No one notices us because they think we're fake monsters that were fleshies dressed like this, and in fact, I'm a real monster, and there are other real monsters out there, but don't tell anyone. It's a secret. Anyway, this is the only month I can get away with being me, and no one notices the screaming and the crying and the begging so much because they think it's all part of an act. Alright, here we go. My first tribute. And that tribute goes out to Vincent Price. And, it's a man after my own heart, because if you look right here, Vincent Price had his own cookbook. Well, he had more than one, but this is, I believe, the very first cookbook he ever had. I tell you, he was such a cool fleshie that he had recipes on how to cook other fleshies. He was a real bona fide monster, folks. He wasn't a fleshie, he was a monster. He's one of us. In fact, I'm gonna look up a few recipes. And by the way, Count Cora, this is yours. I took it out of your lair the last time it was standard. Ha 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 ha! All mine now, buddy. You're gonna have to go back on Bay and go get another one, alright? You watch my special, I'm gonna... Whoa, fricassee fleshy. Now, this guy was real. Vincent Price was a versatile actor, but we are all going to focus on what made Vincent Price so special to the monster community. His contributions to horror. From monsters to Muppets, Vincent Price charmed and terrified millions of fleshies and forever endeared himself in the hearts and minds of the monster community. Vincent Price passed away on October 25th, 1993. Vincent may be dead, but his gruesome collection of movies will live on forever. Vincent Price's first venture into horror was in 1939 with another fleshy that should have been a monster, Boris Karloff. The film is called Tower of London. And he did a few more films, House of Wax, The Fly, House on Haunted Hill. Oh, and don't forget some of the Edgar Allan Poe movies he managed to make. The Pit and the Pendulum, The Raven, The Mask of the Red Death, and so on. And that leads us to our next tribute to fleshies that tragically died in the month of October, and that's Edgar Allan Poe. Edgar Allan Poe was a poet, editor, critic, and believe it or not, part of the American Romantic movement. We're going to forget about that last part that I just mentioned, and we're going to remember what Poe was best known for, and that was his tales of mystery, death, loss, and the macabre. From Metzengersten to the Raven, his dark fantasies about the living and the dead fascinates us. Still, it was once said that Poe had a heart always about to break. And this may have been the driving force behind some of his greatest, yet darkest stories. Poe was a tortured soul even after death. Poe died October 7th, 1849. Poe was initially buried in an unmarked grave at Westminster Church, now known as Westminster Hall, but thanks to a determined group of friends and family, Poe's body was moved and a proper memorial was erected. And to this day, whenever we read or watch a mystery, horror, or science fiction story, Poe's influence is most likely there in the shadows. Kind of like, speaking of black cats, there you go. I have the actual black cat from one of Poe's stories. See, it's a cat and it's black, and it's a cat, so it makes him the black cat. And, I don't have bricks or... You like walls? No? It's making a funny noise. It kind of sounds like a lawnmower. I had a lot of lawnmowers in my time. Or at least I heard them. And you sound like a lawnmower. It's funny. Does anybody know how to turn it off? Yeah, it's making a very distinct lawnmower sound. I think it needs to be fed some grass. I'm not sure. Alright, Black Cat, do you want grass? Or maybe some bricks? Because I have to do something bad to you now. That's, I didn't write the story. I wonder what cat tastes like. Stay still. It's a little hairy. I'll work on the black cat and go back to the trailers. No, really. How do you turn it off? Where's the off switch? Here, kitty, kitty, kitty. Here, kitty. Sorry, the cat got away. He was kind of hairy and a little gamey, but I'll finish him off. I've got a nice cookbook. I could probably, throw together a nice souffle or something. Anyway, our next tribute goes out to another fleshie that could have been a monster. Well, at least he gets honorable mention, mainly because he died October 31st, 1926. And that would be Houdini. He wasn't a monster per se. He didn't really do horror films or anything really related to horror, but he was a magician and an escape artist, and a lot of that stuff was pretty scary, so that counts. Oh yeah, back in 1919, Houdini starred in a film called The Grim Game. Now, for nearly 100 years, this film was thought to have been lost forever, and then it was found in some guy's private collection. There was a channel on a major cable company, name your cable company, acquired the film, cleaned it up, and then recently aired it on its channel. Go Google The Grim Game Restored and you'll see which one I'm talking about. I saw the film in its entirety. Yes, it's a silent. I know some fleshies have a problem with films that don't make noise. They play music in the background. It's pretty good. You get a chance to catch The Grim Game, watch it. If you missed your opportunity, I am sure that sometime in the future on Red Ray, Yellow Ray, Blue Ray, Pink Ray, whatever Ray you watch, it'll be on one of those rays and you can go buy it and stick it in your machine and then stare at your TV. But catch The Grim Game is pretty good. Oh yeah, there was one more fleshie that died on Halloween, October 31st, 1988, and his name was John Houseman. John Houseman is another fleshie that, well, he at least deserves honorable mention as a fleshie that should have been a monster. Not only did he die on October 31st, but he worked with Orson Welles. So you put together Death Day, October 31st, worked with Orson Welles, starred in, well, he was in The Fog and Ghost Story. That's a pretty cool guy. Pretty cool fleshie, in my book. Can you glue Death Cake together? Because mine broke. Anyway. Last but certainly not least, we have one more fleshie for our October Death Day celebration tribute. He passed away October 24th, 1994. Very young. And that would be Raul Julia. Now, I grew up watching The Addams Family as a young zombie. I liked watching the original Addams Family. And I thought that Raul was, well, terrific in the remake of The Addams Family. And I am sure had he not passed away at such a young age, he would have probably lived on to make maybe 1 or 14 more Addams Family movies, and I'm sure they all would have been just as good as the first two. Dun, 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 dun. Folks, fire bad! Hey, kids, never play with matches because you might catch your fleshy parents on fire. Hey, you know what? Barbecue flesh is great, so if you... Oh, sorry, I was digressing. That concludes our October Death Day tribute to fleshies that tragically died in October, that should have been monsters. Well, they're probably out of the graves now, roaming the countryside as actual monsters. If anyone sees a zombie Vincent Price, or a zombie Houdini, or a zombie Raul Julia, point me in their direction. I could use some help. These guys were pretty big. They can wrestle me down some fleshies. Anyway, Sally the Zombie Cheerleader saying, hey, enjoy what I have next. I have a few more trailers, and maybe Vincent Price reads something. Happy month of October. Happy Halloween. Happy Death Day. Happy whatever. Bye.
The 1,000 injuries of Fortunato I had borne as best I could, but when he ventured upon insults, I vowed revenge. Now, you who so well know the nature of my soul will not suppose, however, that I gave utterance to a threat. At length, I would be avenged. I would not only punish, but punish with impunity. It must be understood that neither by word nor deed had I given Fortunato cause to doubt my good will. I continued to smile in his face, but he did not perceive that my smile now was at the thought of his immolation. He had a weak point, this Fortunato. Although in other regards he was a man to be respected and even feared, he prided himself in his connoisseurship of wine. I was skillful in the Italian vintages myself and bought largely whenever I could. It was about dusk one evening during the supreme madness of the carnival season that I encountered my friend. He accosted me with excessive warmth, for he had been drinking much. The man wore the costume of a jester. He had on tights, and his head was surmounted by the conical cap and bells. I was so pleased to see him that I thought I should never have done with wringing his hand. I said to him, "My dear Fortunato, you are luckily met. How remarkably well you are looking today. Oh, I have received a keg of what passes for Amontillado, and I have my doubts." "How," said he, "Amontillado, a cask? Impossible. And in the middle of the carnival?" "Well, I have my doubts, and I was silly enough to pay the full Amontillado price without consulting you in the matter. You were not to be found, and I was fearful of losing a bargain." "Amontillado! Amontillado!" "Yes, as you are engaged, I am on my way to meet Lucchesi. If anyone has a critical turn, it is he. He will tell me." "Lucchesi cannot tell Amontillado from sherry. And yet some fools will have it that his taste is a match for your own. Come, let us go to your vaults." "Oh, my friend, no, I will not impose upon your good nature. I perceive you have an engagement, Lucchesi." "I have no engagement. Come." "My friend, no, it is not the engagement, but the severe cold with which I perceive you are afflicted. The vaults are insufferably damp. They are encrusted with mold." "Let us go, nevertheless. The cold is merely nothing. Amontillado, you have been imposed upon. As for Lucchesi, he cannot distinguish sherry from Amontillado." Thus speaking, Fortunato possessed himself of my arm. I, putting on a mask of black silk and drawing a cape closely about my person, suffered him to hurry me to my palazzo. Oh, there were no attendants at home. They had absconded to make merry in honor of the time. I took from their sconces 2 torches, and giving one to Fortunato, bowed him through several suites of rooms to the archways that led into the vaults. I passed down a long and winding staircase, requesting him to be cautious as he followed. We came at length to the foot of the descent and stood together on the damp ground of the catacombs of the Montresors, my family. The gait of my friend was unsteady, and the bells on his jester's cap jingled as he strode. "Where is the cask?" "It is farther on, but observe the white web work which gleams from these cavern walls." "Mold?" Mold, yes. "How long have you had that cough?" My poor friend found it impossible to reply for many minutes. "It is nothing. Come, we will go back. Your health is precious. You are rich, respected, admired, beloved. You are a man to be missed. For me, it is no matter. We will go back. You will be ill, and I cannot be responsible. Besides, there is Lucchesi." Enough. The cough is a mere nothing. It will not kill me. I shall not die of a cough." True. And indeed, I had no intention of alarming you unnecessarily, but you should use all proper caution. A draught of this Medoc will defend us against the dance. Here I knocked off the neck of a bottle which I drew from a long row of its fellows that lay upon the mold. "Drink," I said, presenting him the wine. He raised it to his lips with a sneer. He paused and nodded to me familiarly while his bells jingled. "I drink to the buried that repose around us, and I to your long life. Here, he again took my arm, and we proceeded. The wine sparkled in his eyes, and the bells jingled. My own fancy grew warm with the maid-off. We had passed through walls of piled bones with casks and puncheons intermingling into the inmost recesses of the catacombs. I paused again, and this time made bold to seize Fortunato by an arm. The mold, you see, it increases. It hangs like moss upon the vaults. We are below the river's bed. The drops of moisture trickle among the bones. Come, we will go back ere it is too late. Your cough, it is nothing. Let us go on. Let us proceed to the Amontillado. Be it so. He leaned heavily upon my arm. We continued our route in search of the Amontillado. We passed through a range of low arches, descended, passed on, and descending again, arrived at a deep crypt in which the foulness of the air caused our torches to glow rather than flame. At the most remote end of the crypt, there appeared another room, less spacious. Its walls had been lined with human remains, piled to the vault overhead in the fashion of the great catacombs of Paris. 3 sides of this interior crypt were still ornamented in this manner. From the 4th, the bones had been thrown down and lay in a mound upon the earth. Within the wall, thus exposed by the displacing of the bones, we perceived a still interior recess in depth about 4 feet, in width 3, in height 6 or 7, cut into the solid granite. Proceed. Herein is the Amontillado. As for Lucchesi, he is an ignoramus. He stepped unsteadily forward while I followed immediately at his heels. In an instant, he had reached the extremity of the niche, and finding his progress arrested by the rock, stood stupidly bewildered. In the surface of the granite, there happened to be 2 iron staples. From one depended a short chain, from the other a padlock. It was but the work of a few seconds to throw the links about his waist and secure him. He was too much astounded to resist. Withdrawing the key, I stepped back from the recess. Pass your hand over the wall, Fortunato. You cannot help but feel the mold. Indeed, it is very damp. Once more, let me implore you to return. No? Then I must positively leave you. But I must first render you all the little attentions in my power. The Amontillado. True, the Amontillado. As I said these words, I busied myself among the pile of bones of which I have spoken. Throwing them aside, I soon uncovered a quantity of building stone and mortar. With these materials and with the aid of a trowel, I began vigorously to wall up the entrance of the niche. I scarcely laid the first tier of the masonry when I discovered that the intoxication of Fortunato had in a great measure worn off. The earliest indication I had of this was a low moaning cry from the depth of the recess. It was not the cry of a drunken man. Then there was a long and obstinate silence. I laid the second tier and the third and the fourth, and then I heard the furious vibrations of the chain. The noise lasted for several minutes, during which, that I might hearken to it with the more satisfaction, I ceased my labors and sat down upon the bones. When at last the clanking subsided, I resumed the trowel and finished without interruption the 5th, the 6th, and the 7th tier. The wall was now nearly upon a level with my breast. I again paused, and holding the torch over the masonwork, threw a few feeble rays upon the figure within. A succession of loud and shrill screams bursting suddenly from the throat of the chain form seemed to thrust me violently back. For a brief moment, I hesitated. I trembled. Then I placed my hand upon the solid fabric of the catacombs and felt satisfied. I reapproached the wall. I replied to the yells of him who clamored. I re-echoed. I aided. I surpassed them in volume and in strength. I did this. And the clamorer grew still. It was now midnight, and my task was drawing to a close. I had completed the 8th, the 9th, and the 10th tier. I had finished a portion of the last, the 11th. There remained but a single stone to be fitted and plastered in. I struggled with its weight. I placed it partially in its destined position. But now there came from out the niche a low laugh that erected the hairs upon the back of my neck. A very good joke indeed. An excellent jest. We will have many a rich laugh about it at the palazzo. Over our wine. The Amontillado. Yes, the Amontillado. But is it not getting late? Will they not be waiting for us at the palazzo? The Lady Fortunato and the rest? Let us be gone. Yes, let us be gone. For the love of God, Montresor! Yes, for the love of God, Fortunato. But to these words I hearkened in vain for a reply. I grew impatient. I called aloud, Fortunato? Fortunato? No answer still. I thrust a torch through the remaining aperture and let it fall within. There came forth in return only a jingling of the bells. My heart grew sick on account of the dampness of the catacombs. I hastened to make an end of my labor. I forced the last stone into its position. I plastered it up. Against the new masonry, I erected the old rampart of bones. For the half of a century, no mortal has disturbed them. In pace requiescat.